Hello, I'm back with another scripted video. I sincerely apologise for taking so long to make another one. With everything going on at the moment, my life was a bit of a whirlwind. But I'm here today to rank the companions of modern Doctor Who, so from 2005 onwards. I've always wanted to do something like this, and it will also require a lot less editing than my future Doctor Who video, so it's a bit of a win-win. Also, please check that video out. I put an unforeseen amount of work into it. To qualify for this list, the character must have travelled in the TARDIS at least twice consecutively, so River doesn't count, and neither does Adam. I'm thankful, though, because he would be a waste of a segment. It also sadly means my Queen Jackie will not be here, and neither will Sarah Jane, as she has only travelled once in the revival. Rest assured that I will take into consideration her work with the 10th and 11th Doctors, and her spin-off when I eventually do a classic counterpart to this video. My rule also means there is a rather surprising candidate who is eligible for this list. Suspense! P.S. If I forgot someone, I'm going to kick myself. 2. These are my own biased, subjective opinions. If you disagree, that is totally fine, and I encourage you to leave your opinions down below. Just don't attack me or anyone else because we like a fictional character less than you do. I can find redeeming elements in all of these companions, even last place. It's just natural for me to have favourites. 3. I am not trying to bring down the actors. They have a job to do, and I think they're all competent actors, so don't attack any of them because they haven't done anything wrong. Enough housekeeping, onto the list. Number 15, Courtney Woods. I guess she counts, as she did travel on the TARDIS in the Caretaker and kill the moon. That second one implies she kind of muscled her way into the TARDIS team, as they seem to have a built-up relationship at this point, so I guess they had off-screen adventures, ? I do find it odd she basically disappears after that episode, as it felt like she was being prepped to become a full companion in the next series, but I guess Moffat wasn't interested in that route. She's this far down because A, she barely qualifies for the list, and the fact she just disappears from the show makes her very forgettable. I almost finished writing the script when I remembered to include her. B, she was pretty annoying in Kill the Moon, and I wish they had kept the chemistry she had with 12 in The Caretaker, rather than making her desperate for his approval in Kill the Moon. She didn't seem the type to get that way, and then she got pretty bored quickly anyway. C, I feel like she's the only character on this list that the Doctor has probably forgotten about. Number 14, Ryan Sinclair. Ryan Sinclair had a very clear character arc with him and Graeme's growing relationship and journey of grief after the loss of Grace, forming the backbone of Series 11. I have my own issues with that, which I'll be going over in a later video, just you wait, but it meant that Ryan was quite important as a character. I had qualms with him as Series 11 went on though. I felt he became rather annoying, especially in It Takes You Away where he's needlessly dickish to Hannah. That being said, I actually appreciated him in Resolution, and although sometimes jarring combined with the Dalek story it's a part of, his relationship with his dad was really interesting to me. Series 12 was where everything went wrong. I'll get to Ryan's compadres later, but I think Yaz and Graeme both feel like they have something to do. We learn a lot about Yaz's backstory and struggles, which give everything she does in both series a new quality to them, and her and the Doctor's relationship is certainly interesting. Graeme provides comic relief, and feels like the unofficial leader of their companion trio. Ryan, he's a puppy, being dragged along on a leash by someone who cares so little about the dog, they've forgotten it's trailing behind them. Although he wasn't terrible in Series 11, he wasn't my favourite, and he has nothing in Series 12 worth mentioning. I told you, none of these companions are awful, but Ryan was an easy choice for this spot, as he's the only one that doesn't really give me a spark of any kind. Number 13, Nardole. Honestly, from here on out, I like all the companions, but this is a ranking list, so I kind of have to pick favourites. That's the whole concept of the video. Moffat has admitted that Nardole was a very last minute addition to Series 10, with many scripts having to be rewritten to include Nardole or explain his absence. Rather amusingly, the first 4 episodes include him the least they possibly can. I don't feel like Nardole ever got a proper chance to be a companion because of this. Secondary companions like Rory and Mickey were often outshined by the primary TARDIS traveller, but both had plenty of moments where they really stood out and had great character moments. Nardole, not so much. Even the Series 10 finale doesn't do a whole lot with him, and a great classic-style companion exit is wasted on someone we don't really know. Despite all that, I still enjoy him when we do see him, and he has the advantage of surprise on his side. We all expected Nardole to be the worst companion of New Who ever, all being exaggerative, obviously. But he was unexpectedly a three-dimensional character with great acting from Matt Lucas along with his comedy chops. Apart from Nardole's relationship with the Doctor sadly forming off-screen, I think Nardole was more successful than he had any business being. Number 12, Rory Williams. He's a similar situation to Ryan in that, once his usefulness runs out, he gets forgotten about. Unlike Ryan though, he still has a charming personality and endearing quality to him, combined with an interesting Doctor-companion relationship. He's a very funny character, and I always enjoy characters in the show that point out how ridiculous it can be sometimes, like when he suddenly learned how to ride a motorbike in Let's Kill Hitler. I found his badass moments to be a little cringe, and that really applies with all of Moffat's characters bar River Song. I much preferred when he was an adorable softie, and I think his obvious adoration for Amy is so sweet. I think his performance got better and better as the show went on, even if he had less and less plot relevance. Off the top of my head, I can't really think of any emotional moments for his character that remotely rival that of characters like Clara or Bill, and that's probably one of his only major weaknesses. He deserved more episodes like The Girl Who Waited, which ironically felt more like a Rory-centric story to me than an Amy-centric one. To sum up, I enjoy Rory. He just wasn't given standout moments like people higher on the list. Number 11, Yazmin Khan. I feel like I'm going to be crucified for putting Yaz, the companion equivalent to a medium Janet, above Rory, but I have my reasons. I really enjoy Mandit's performance, and I actually see a lot of layers to her character, even if it took me multiple rewatches to peel them back. Yaz seems to have genuine affection for the Doctor, and although I don't think the Doctor feels the same way, I do recognise the romantic undertones to some of Yasmin's lines. Her description of the Doctor in The Haunting of Villa Diodati, and her reluctance to say goodbye to the Doctor in The Timeless Children are two examples. I actually enjoyed this romantic aspect being very subliminal, rather than the overt flirtations of Rose, Amy and Clara. Can You Hear Me was a standout episode for our budding police officer, and showed off the potential this character has for greatness, as well as making me desperate to know her skin routine as she manages to look like a real teenager at age 32. I also want to point out something that kinda unlocked my love for Yaz, as it made me look at her in a different way. When she has that conversation with the police officer is sitting in a very particular way, as she tells her that things will get better. In Rosa, Yaz is sitting the same way as she talks to Ryan about racism slowly disappearing in the world, even if things still aren't perfect. She even has a very interesting reaction when Ryan asks where she got her wisdom from. Chibnall may not have planned all this out, but I think Yaz is actually really complex, and I hope she stays on, as sharing the limelight with two others has hindered her thus far. Number 10, Amy Pond.
I said what I said.
I think Amy has an amazing companion within her. I love her unique first meeting with the Doctor, and the constant motif of her having to wait for the Doctor is one of the few things that didn't get boring for me during Eleven's run. I love Karen Gunn's performance, and bare the end of Flesh and Stone, I think she's consistent in her characterisation, and you can identify how Amy has changed. I love her goodbye in the sense that she finally chooses Rory after spending 2 seasons in an unconventional love triangle, even if her love for 11 loses its blatant romance after Series 5. That brings me to a big issue though. Although Amy obviously loves Rory and makes the decision to give up the Doctor to be with him, she really treats him like shit sometimes. Perhaps deliberately, Amy doesn't even seem to like Rory until halfway through Series 5, and I think the decision to still retain the love triangle aspect through to Series 6 was a mistake. The shtick got old, especially when Amy and Rory were married with a child. The struggle between Rory and the Doctor felt resolved in The Big Bang to me, so it was dead weight in their second series, and ended up negatively impacting Amy's character as a result. To counteract that, some of Karen's best stuff is in Series 6, so that is one redeeming feature for the 2011 episodes. Overall, I enjoy Amy, but I think sometimes she felt a bit flat, and then other times was the most complex person in the room. I still love Gillen though, and Nebula better get what she deserves, which is a solo film and/or series. Number 9, Missy. Okay, I am cheating a little bit here, but we see Missy travel in the TARDIS multiple times, and as the Doctor approved of her accompanying them during the Eaters of Light, I think she counts. Honestly, the only reason she's not higher is because I'm being very cheeky by including her at all. I really enjoy what they did with this incarnation of the Master, and I think Gomez gives an outstanding performance. However, I think it would be unfair to let her have a higher spot. Whenever I rank the Masters, I'll talk more about her, but for now, just know that I love her, and we were robbed of a full series of her on the TARDIS as a half-reluctant companion. Number 8, Graeme O'Brien. I stan Graeme. He's probably the most self-aware companion we've ever had, and he's one of the most successful comic relief characters I can think of, all whilst managing to retain a great sincerity to him and deliver the punch of all his emotional scenes. I really feel how much he cares for his grandson Ryan, and his relationship with Grace was one of the best parts of The Woman Who Fell to Earth. The journey he goes through after losing Grace is brilliantly done, and Arachnids in the UK, It Takes You Away, and the Battle of Ransgrave Kolos act as a great trilogy to show how he develops. The Series 11 finale might seem a bit reductive for him, but it is a realistic portrayal of grief. You have good days, and you have bad days. He seems to put Grace behind him in It Takes You Away, but when confronted with her killer, he has a thirst for revenge, willing to give up his travels to do so. I think his interaction with 13, where he understands and accepts the Doctor will stop his travels without judging her for taking a different stance, is an underrated moment for him. He does have less relevance in Series 12, but he is still very funny, and I enjoyed learning how much he has grown to care about Yaz too, basically becoming a grandfather figure to her as well. Their chat in The Timeless Children almost brought me to tears of sadness, and then tears of laughter when he called her out for not matching his speech. Everyone from here on out I have a strong emotional attachment to, and I can only hope our Graeme gets a good send-off in Revolution of the Daleks. Number 7, Clara Oswald. I wonder if I subliminally put Clara in the middle of the list to avoid the most possible fallout I can. I would say that Clara is definitively the most divisive companion of the whole show, with many taking a love or hate stance. Clara is like 12 in that her 3 seasons show 3 different versions of her character. Series 7 presents a strong-willed, bubbly young woman who treats the TARDIS as a hobby she does in her spare time, who doesn't realise her importance to the Doctor's life just yet. Series 8 presents a teacher trying to balance her regular life, specifically her job and boyfriend, with her time-travelling escapades, as she slowly becomes addicted to the lifestyle. Series 9 presents someone trying her best to be just like the Doctor, risking her life and being unnecessarily reckless with an unshakable confidence that is her downfall in the end. I think all these versions have pros and cons, but I think Jenna's excellent chemistry with Capaldi is so undeniable, it's hard for me not to enjoy her. I also think that a lot of the moments where she isn't particularly likeable are deliberate parts of her flawed character. I can make a whole video about Clara Oswald, and I probably will at some point, but I think I can sum her up as an imperfect character who is very likeable and endearing, and in the end, I'd be lying if I said I didn't instinctively want to protect her. She went through a lot of shit, guys, let's give her a break. I may not be able to put into words what I feel about her, but I feel very strongly about whatever that feeling is. Number 6, Rose Tyler. Rose Tyler is exceptionally lucky that she has Series 1, because I flat out don't enjoy Rose in certain episodes of Series 2. I think her attachment to travelling is much less understandable because she's ready to ditch everyone and everything, including her family, without so much as a goodbye. Clara did have a life outside of the TARDIS. Rose doesn't at all. I could attribute that to her age, to be fair, and at least the show itself addresses that her actions are questionable at best. Rose is really here because she's one of the most relatable companions in the show, at least for her first 13 episodes. She's young and bored, wanting more from life, but feeling like she'll never get anything better. Billie Piper is a great actor, despite being quote-unquote stunt casting because of her music career. I think her ignorance toward Mickey and Jackie's feelings in the parting of the ways is a bit more understandable, because she knows the Doctor's life is at stake. They'd also not been particularly supportive of her travels up until this point, so I can understand her being a bit careless toward them. In Series 2, however, they are totally supportive of her, and her mum is facing a brand new life with Mickey and an alternate version of her husband, who's dead, in a new universe, and her daughter abandons her to be with a man who wants her to go. He's not in danger in this instance, she just chooses him over her mum despite the logistics of their relationship lasting being very tricky. I have said a lot of bad things, so you might be wondering why she's so high. The answer? I can't help but have a deep emotional connection to her as she was my companion. I remember watching her when I was 2 and being devastated when she left at only age 3, and then at age 5 I was gobsmacked when she returned. Yes, I have a great memory. I can remember back to when I was 2, although only small blips, such as hiding behind the sofa when the Slitheen revealed themselves in Aliens of London. She's the companion I grew up with, and the nostalgia factor is strong with this one. That might seem unfair to put her up so high just because of that, but this is my list, so I'll do what I want. We are now at the top 5. These are the best of the best in my book. Number 5, Mickey Smith. I was shocked when I looked at my finalised list and found Mickey up so high. I think getting to watch Seska Sez's enjoyment influenced this slightly. Seriously, getting to watch her lose her shit over Mickey coming back in Journey's End always gets me. Mickey was Rory if Amy chose the Doctor, basically. Mickey was a skosh insufferable in Series 1, especially Boomtown, even if he was justified in his emotions. I think he gets the award for biggest turnaround, though. I genuinely like him in the Christmas Invasion. He's actually very helpful in Series 2. It's a shame his stint as a companion is cut short, but I really admired his decision to leave and start a new life. Knowing that he wasn't being appreciated by the Doctor or Rose, and making up for an alternate version of himself who didn't appreciate his gran as much as he should. He is very funny in Series 2, especially in School Reunion, and I think Noel Clarke takes what was an annoying character and really elevates him. Hindsight has been kind to Mickey, and I'm sure I'll like him even more as time goes on. Number 4, Jack Harkness. Jack Harkness and John Barrowman are topics that I feel like the general opinion of get less and less favourable as time goes on. I think John Barrowman is dedicated to this character to a fault, and I understand why that grates on people. I also think the hype around the character and the actor is to a point where the character can no longer live up to it. Trying to take that out of the equation though, I still love Jack, and I think John's charm and fabulosity is undeniable. I know his inclusion in Fugitive the Jadoon is a bit underwhelming, but if it was what allowed to get him in the upcoming festive special, I'm totally fine with it. His first series is a classic rogue-turned-hero story, and it does work for him. You can't help but like him at first, but then you slowly grow to love him as he becomes selfless and compassionate. His return in Series 3 is great, and I love how different his dynamic with 10 is compared to his dynamic with 9. 10 seems to have a very mild fear of what Jack is and could be during that final trilogy, and you can see how time and his position at Torchwood has changed him. Speaking of, he got 4 series of a spin-off, even if he wasn't the main character in that first one, and was more of a mysterious mentor figure to Gwen. It did explore the more mature facets of his personality, and he got some excellent acting moments on that show. He also has a gift in that he has great chemistry with literally every other companion from the show that he met, which was a lot. He was also a big part of me growing up without any kind of self-doubt or worry over my sexuality because of his openness about his relationships with men, his kiss with 9, and his flirtation with Alonso in The End of Time. So this placement means a lot more to me than the others. If I got to have a role in Doctor Who, he's the person I'd most like to act against. Do with that what you will. We're at the top 3 now, and I'm sure you probably have figured out who's left, but let's continue anyway, because it'd be weird to stop now. Number 3, Bill Potts. She deserved better. I stand by my opinion that her continuing on to Series 11 would have been a bad idea. However, it's still a waste that she couldn't have had a second run of episodes. She was also a surprise, just like her companion counterpart Nardole. A lot of people found her annoying in her reveal video, but she turned out to be a charming student who, yes, asks a lot of questions, but they're mostly comedic ones that her fans have been asking for years. They serve a purpose, and her inquisitiveness is embedded as a core part of her character at the beginning when she attends the Doctor's lectures despite not being a student. The current TARDIS team just asks questions because current Doctor Who treats audiences like infants who are only half engaged with the show they're watching. Bill is the most relatable companion bar Rose to me, and she has the added bonus of not having moments of extreme selfishness like Miss Tyler did. Considering this was Pearl Mackie's TV debut, she's excellent, and I think the pilot, Oxygen, The Lie of the Land, and The Doctor Falls are her best episodes performance-wise. I also really like her fashion style. That doesn't really matter here, but I had to point it out. Her ending is one of my least favourites, if I'm honest, and that might be what stopped her from getting the spot above, but we will still stan her in this household. Number 2, Martha Jones. Justice for Jones. Martha is the most underrated companion to me. I think she's got the best chance of coming back to the show, which really pleases me, and she's even said she'd want to come back. Mickey in tow would be even better, but I'll take what I can get. Martha is the worst treated companion too. The Doctor is dismissive of her for way too long, and I think they spend way too much time focusing on her crush on the Doctor. Freema Agyeman does a good job with it, and I appreciated they committed to the idea. I also think it's mostly worth it for Martha's initial goodbye where she spells it out to the Doctor that she's leaving because she deserves to be recognised for how amazing she is. That doesn't change the fact that we spend so much time on it. It feels like all her character is I like the Doctor and he doesn't like me back. I love her appearance in Series 4 though, and I think she's the perfect case study for Davros' accusation that the Doctor turns his companions into weapons. I honestly think she's the most likeable companion of all of them, and it helps that she's one of the most capable too. We were robbed of her and Mickey appearing in Children of Earth. Robbed! Martha is unique in that she doesn't actually have amazing chemistry with the Doctor to me, like the companions she's sandwiched between, but that's what makes her so amazing to me. Even without that, she's still a wonderful character, and I like that she's the only major modern companion to leave on her own terms, for her own sake and her family's. She's a strong, independent woman, and not in the ironic sense. Number 1, Donna Noble. You probably knew this was coming. Donna is an icon, the hero we needed but didn't deserve. Her first appearance was good, and showed off that Catherine Tate was a much more capable actor than people thought beforehand. She was a bit abrasive, but that helped contrast the person she had become by the end of The Runaway Bride. In Series 4, she was perfect for me. She was funny, she was likeable, she was developed, she was three-dimensional, she was emotional, she was relatable. The list goes on. Catherine Tate is a comic genius, and even when reading other people's lines, she elevates them. She has the most heartbreaking ending as the Donna we love does effectively die, and unlike Clara and Bill, doesn't get brought back afterwards because God forbid any character die in this programme. I think her appearance in The End of Time does end up being a bit of a red herring, but it made sense to properly end her story. I also want to shout out Wilf here. He doesn't qualify for the list, but he is amazing, and him and Donna's relationship is so cute. Her outrage at the Doctor leaving everyone in Pompeii to die is one of the most heartbreaking scenes of the whole revival for me, just behind Donna realising she has to have her mind wiped, and then pleading for the Doctor not to. I'm glad Donna's got a decent amount of Big Finish content thus far, and is probably going to continue doing work for them, because I really don't want her to come back to the show. I think it would ruin her storyline. Her appearance spanned from 2006 to 2010, and she's the most thought out arc to me. I knew going into this video that she'd have the top spot, so I wasn't really surprised. That's it, I guess. Hope you don't mind that minimal editing. This is much longer than my Future of Doctor Who video, so doing the whole editing shebang will take me way too long. I still have school, guys, so I can't spend too much time on this, because at the end of the day, it is just a hobby. But I still hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, like, subscribe, hit the bell. If you didn't, then, I'm sorry. You got to this part of the video. Thanks for the view, though. Bye-bye. Bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye now. Bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye now. Have a nice flight. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.